The arrival. The massive alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their dark ships blotting out distant stars. Commander Vex of the Galactic Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue-green world that would soon belong to them. "Begin scanning protocols," Vex ordered his crew. This primitive world should fall within one solar rotation. The Empire had conquered 47 worlds. Each time, the pattern was the same. They would arrive, demand surrender, and the locals would either submit or be destroyed. Earth looked no different from the bridge scanners, a young civilization that had barely left their home planet. "Sir, we're detecting unusual activity," reported Lieutenant Kale, his tentacles dancing over the control panel. "The humans appear to be mobilizing their military forces." Vex laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Let them. Their primitive weapons cannot harm our shields." But as the hours passed, something strange began happening. The human military wasn't just mobilizing. They were moving with precision and speed that surprised the alien observers. Space stations that had appeared to be simple research outposts suddenly revealed themselves as heavily armed defense platforms. "Commander," Kale's voice carried a note of concern. "The humans have launched over 300 vessels from their planet. They're heading directly for us." Vex studied the tactical display. The human ships were small, much smaller than his dreadnoughts, but there were so many of them. And they moved with a coordination that spoke of extensive training and preparation. "Impossible," Vex muttered. "Our intelligence reports showed they had no unified planetary defense. What the Empire's spies had missed was humanity's greatest strength, their ability to unite against a common threat." Within hours of the alien fleet's detection, every nation on Earth had activated long-standing defense protocols. The ships racing toward the invaders carried pilots from dozens of countries, all flying under one banner. Captain Jake Miller gripped the controls of his fighter, part of the first wave of Earth's response. Around him, hundreds of other pilots pushed their engines to maximum burn. Behind them came the larger ships, destroyers, carriers, and the massive battleships that humanity had built in secret over the past decade. "All units, this is command," came the voice over the radio. "Remember, they came to our home. They threatened our families. Show them what happens when you mess with Earth." The alien fleet had expected terror and chaos. Instead, they watched in growing alarm as humanity's forces arranged themselves in perfect battle formation. These weren't primitive savages. They were warriors who had been preparing for this moment their entire lives. Vex felt the first stirring of doubt as he watched the human fleet approach. Their ships might be smaller, but they moved with deadly purpose, and the energy readings his sensors were detecting from their weapons. "Sir, should we attempt communication?" asked Kale. "No," Vex replied, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "We proceed as planned. All ships, prepare for battle." These humans will learn why the galaxy fears the Empire, but deep in his alien heart, Vex wondered if perhaps this time the Empire had chosen the wrong world to conquer. The humans weren't running or begging for mercy. They were coming straight at the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, and they looked ready for war. As the two forces closed the distance between them, Captain Miller's voice crackled over the communications array. "Alien fleet, this is Earth Defense Force. You have exactly one chance to turn around and leave our solar system. We will not give you a second warning." The response came in the form of plasma fire as the Empire's forward ships opened fire. The battle for Earth's freedom was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy exactly what they were. Maid of Vex watched the first exchange of fire light up the darkness of space. The humans had answered with their own weapons, and to his shock, several of his ship's shields flickered under the assault. "Impossible," he whispered. "How can such a young race possess weapons this advanced?" The truth was simple. Humanity had always been good at one thing above all others: war. And when faced with extinction, they had turned that talent toward the stars. First blood, the first exchange of fire between the two fleets, lit up the space between Jupiter and Mars like a deadly fireworks display. Vex watched in disbelief as his forward destroyers, ships that had reduced entire cities to ash, suddenly found their shields buckling under human weapon fire. "Report," Vex barked at his tactical officer. "Sir, the human weapons are different. They're using kinetic accelerators combined with plasma cores. The impact is overloading our shield generators faster than they can recharge." Captain Miller rolled his fighter through a storm of alien plasma fire, his wingmen staying tight in formation. The aliens were good, but they fought like they expected. Easy victories. Humanity had learned warfare through centuries of conflict, and every lesson was being put to use. "Gold Squadron, focus fire on the lead destroyer," Miller commanded. "Remember your training. Hit and run. Don't give them time to target lock." The human fighters swarmed like angry wasps around the massive alien ships. Where the Empire expected organized formations, they found chaos. Where they expected fear, they found fury. The human pilots flew with a reckless courage that bordered on insanity, diving between the massive alien vessels to strike at weak points. Aboard the Empire flagship, alarms began sounding as the first of Vex's destroyers lost shield power completely. The massive ship tried to turn away from the swarm of human fighters, but it was too late. Earth's larger vessels had moved into position, and their main guns spoke with voices of thunder. The destroyer's hull cracked like an egg, atmosphere venting into space as secondary explosions rippled along its length. Within minutes, the pride of the Empire's forward fleet was nothing but debris and radiation. "Impossible," Vex repeated, his claws digging into his command chair. "One ship, yes, but they cannot destroy our entire fleet." But the humans were proving him wrong with each passing minute. Their tactics were unlike anything in the Empire's database. They fought dirty, using everything from ramming attacks to coordinated strikes that seemed to come from nowhere. Most disturbing of all, they showed no fear of death. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park watched the tactical display from her position aboard the battleship Defiance. The aliens were powerful, but they fought with the arrogance of those who had never faced real resistance. "Target their command ship," she ordered. "All batteries prepare for full broadside." The Defiance was humanity's newest and most powerful vessel, built with technology reverse-engineered from alien wrecks found throughout the solar system over the past 50 years. The Empire thought Earth was primitive, but humanity had been studying their technology for decades. Vex felt his flagship shudder as human weapons found their mark. These weren't the crude projectiles his intelligence had reported. These were sophisticated weapons that seemed designed specifically to counter Empire technology. "Sir, we're receiving reports from across the fleet," Kale reported, his voice tight with panic. "We've lost 6 destroyers and 3 cruisers. The humans are—" His words were cut off as another massive impact shook the flagship. Through the viewport, Vex could see human fighters dancing between his ships like deadly angels, their weapons carving through hulls that were supposed to be impenetrable. "How is this possible?" Vex demanded. "They're a primitive species. They haven't even colonized their own moon." What Vex didn't understand was that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology. It was their refusal to accept defeat. Every human pilot, every gunner, every commander in the fleet carried the same thought. This was their home, and they would die before letting anyone take it. Captain Miller's fighter squadron regrouped after their latest attack run. Half his pilots were gone, but the alien formation was breaking apart. The massive ships that had seemed so invincible were burning wrecks drifting through space. "All units, this is Admiral Thompson," came the voice over the fleet communications. "The aliens are attempting to retreat. Do not let them escape. We end this here, or they'll come back with more ships." The human fleet pursued the fleeing aliens with relentless efficiency. There would be no survivors to carry word of Earth's defenses back to the Empire. The message had to be clear. Humanity was not prey. As his flagship continued to take damage, Vex finally understood the truth. The Empire had made a fatal mistake. They had assumed that technological superiority guaranteed victory. But humanity had something the Empire had forgotten in their long reign of conquest: the desperate courage of those fighting for their homes and families. The retreat order came too late. Earth's defenders had tasted victory, and they were hungry for more. The hunt. The remnants of the alien fleet tried to escape toward the outer planets, but humanity was relentless in pursuit. What had begun as an invasion had become a rout, and the human forces showed no mercy to those who had come to destroy their world. Admiral Thompson stood on the bridge of the massive battleship Retribution, watching the tactical display as his forces closed in on the fleeing aliens. The Empire's ships were faster than Earth's vessels, but they were damaged and demoralized. "Status report," Thompson ordered. "Sir, we've destroyed or disabled 70% of their fleet," reported his tactical officer. "The remaining ships are attempting to reach the edge of the system, but our fighter squadrons are keeping them engaged." Thompson nodded grimly. The cost had been high. Nearly half of Earth's defensive fleet was gone. But the alternative would have been extinction. Every human who had died in the battle had saved countless others on the planet below. Commander Vex's flagship limped through space, its hull breached in dozens of places. The proud vessel that had conquered worlds now struggled to maintain life support. Around him, the last survivors of his once mighty fleet were being picked off one by the relentless human pursuit. "Sir, we must send a message to the Empire," Cale urged, his voice desperate. "They must know what happened here." "And tell them what?" Vex snarled. "That we were defeated by primitives? That our entire fleet was destroyed by a species that hasn't even reached their nearest star?" The truth was too bitter to accept. The Empire had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years, spreading fear and submission wherever their ships appeared. Now, for the first time, they had met a species that refused to bow. Captain Miller's fighter squadron had been reinforced with fresh pilots from Earth's reserves. The new arrivals brought reports that made the veterans smile grimly. The entire planet was mobilizing for war. Factories were being converted to produce weapons and ships. Civilian volunteers were signing up faster than they could be processed. "Look at them run," Miller's wingman commented as they closed in on another alien cruiser. "Not so tough when someone fights back." The cruiser tried to return fire, but its weapons were damaged and its aim was poor. The human fighters tore it apart with surgical precision, their weapons finding every weak point in the alien design. Aboard the Retribution, Admiral Thompson received word that the planet's orbital defenses were being rapidly expanded. The governments of Earth had realized that this was only the beginning. If there was one alien fleet, there would be others. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien flagship," his communications officer reported. "Put it through." Vex's image appeared on the main screen. His alien features twisted with rage and desperation. "Human Admiral, I demand you allow the survivors of my fleet to withdraw. We have been defeated and we acknowledge your victory." Thompson's expression remained cold. "You came here to conquer our world and enslave our people. Did you plan to show mercy to humanity?" "This is not how civilized warfare is conducted," Vex protested. "There are rules." "Your rules," Thompson interrupted. "You made the rules when you decided to invade our home. Now you'll live by our rules or die by them." The transmission ended, and Thompson turned to his tactical officer. "Continue the pursuit. No alien ship leaves this system." The hunt continued for another 6 hours as human forces cornered the last of the alien vessels near Neptune's orbit. The Empire's survivors fought with the desperation of the doomed, but it was too late. Earth's defenders had tasted victory, and they were thorough in their work. Captain Miller's squadron surrounded the alien flagship as it drifted helplessly, its engines dead and its weapons silent. Through the ship's breached hull, they could see the alien crew preparing for their final moments. "This is Captain Miller to alien vessel," he broadcast. "Your invasion is over. Your fleet is destroyed. Tell me, was it worth it?" No answer came from the dying ship. The Empire's servants had nothing left to say. As the last alien vessel was destroyed, humanity's fleet regrouped in the space between Mars and Jupiter. The wreckage of the invasion force drifted silent and cold, a monument to the price of underestimating Earth's children. But Admiral Thompson knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere in the galaxy, the Empire would learn of their defeat. And when they did, they would come again, with more ships, more weapons, and more determination. Humanity had won the first battle, but the war for Earth's independence was just beginning. The message in the deepest vaults of the destroyed alien flagship A single automated beacon activated as the ship's hull finally cracked apart. The device was smaller than a human fist, but it contained the most advanced communication technology the Empire possessed. Its message would travel faster than light itself, carrying news of the fleet's destruction across the galaxy. The beacon's signal reached the Empire's core worlds within days, causing panic in the highest levels of government. For the first time, in 1,000 years, an entire Imperial fleet had been destroyed by a supposedly primitive species. High Admiral Corks stood before the Empire's ruling council, his forearms crossed in a gesture of respect. The chamber was filled with representatives, from dozens of conquered worlds, all of them watching him with eyes that held a mixture of fear and something else: hope. "Explain to us how this is possible," demanded the first counselor, her voice echoing through the vast chamber. "How can a species that has not even achieved faster than light travel destroy an entire battle fleet?" Corix activated the holographic display, showing the tactical data recovered from the beacon. "The humans fight unlike any species we have encountered. They show no fear of death, and their technology is more advanced than our intelligence indicated." The images showed human fighters diving between massive Imperial ships, their pilots flying with a skill and courage that defied belief. The Council watched in stunned silence as Earth's defenders tore apart ships that had conquered entire star systems. "This is impossible," muttered one of the counselors. "Our ships are invincible." "Were invincible," Corks corrected. "The humans have weapons specifically designed to counter our defenses. They have been preparing for war with us for decades." What the Empire didn't know was that humanity's preparation had been born from necessity. Earth's astronomers had detected signs of the Empire's expansion 50 years earlier. The wreckage of conquered worlds, the patterns of disappearing civilizations, all of it had pointed to one inevitable conclusion: someday, they would come for Earth. Back in the solar system, humanity was indeed preparing for that return. The victory over the first invasion fleet had given them valuable intelligence about Imperial technology. Every piece of wreckage was being studied, every alien weapon reverse-engineered. Dr. James Wright stood in the research facility hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains, examining a piece of Imperial armor plating. The metal was incredibly strong, but human ingenuity had already found ways to defeat it. "The aliens rely too heavily on energy shields," he explained to the military officers gathered around him. "Their hulls are actually quite vulnerable to kinetic impact. We can exploit that weakness." General Martinez nodded as he studied the data. "How long before we can begin mass production of the new weapons?" 6 months, maybe less. The entire planet is working on this project. Every nation, every corporation, every scientist and engineer on Earth. The unity that had emerged during the invasion was holding strong. For the first time in human history, the entire species was working toward a single goal: survival. The old divisions of nation and ideology had been set aside in the face of extinction. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, automated construction ships were building new defenses around Earth. Massive orbital platforms bristled with weapons, while hidden bases throughout the solar system prepared for the next invasion. Admiral Thompson reviewed the latest intelligence, reports from the captured alien technology. The Empire was vast, thousands of worlds, millions of ships, populations that numbered in the trillions. Earth's victory over one fleet was just the beginning. "They'll come back," he told his staff. "And when they do, they'll bring everything they have." But humanity was counting on that. Every day of preparation made Earth stronger. Every new weapon system, every trained pilot, every fortified position brought them closer to their ultimate goal: not just survival, but victory. The Empire's ruling council finally reached their decision. The defeat at Earth could not be allowed to stand. If word spread that the Empire could be defeated, their entire civilization would collapse as conquered worlds rose in rebellion. "Assemble the Grand Fleet," ordered the first counselor. "Every ship, every weapon, every warrior the Empire can muster. This primitive world will be made an example of." High Admiral Corks bowed deeply. "It will be done. But I must warn you, these humans are not like the others we have conquered. They will not surrender and they will not run. They will fight to the last." Then we will ensure there is no last, the first counselor replied coldly. Earth will burn, and its ashes will serve as a warning to any who would dare defy the Empire. The message had been delivered, and the Empire's response was mobilizing across 100 worlds. But they had made one crucial mistake. They still underestimated humanity's greatest strength: their refusal to accept defeat, no matter the odds. Earth's defiance. 2 years after the first invasion, the Empire's Grand Fleet assembled at the edge of the solar system. It was the largest military force ever gathered in galactic history. 10,000 ships carrying weapons capable of cracking planets. The Empire had come to make an example of Earth, to show the galaxy what happened to those who defied their rule. High Admiral Cork stood on the bridge of the massive flagship Dominator, watching Earth's small blue dot in the distance. The planet looked peaceful, almost defenseless. But Corks remembered the tactical reports from the first invasion, and he knew better than to underestimate humanity. Begin the final approach, he ordered. All ships prepare for battle. This time we leave nothing alive. But as the Grand Fleet moved deeper into the solar system, they encountered something that made even Corks pause in amazement. The space around Earth had been transformed into a fortress, unlike anything in the galaxy. Massive orbital platforms surrounded the planet like a deadly necklace, each one bristling with weapons that could destroy Imperial dreadnoughts. Sir, reported his tactical officer, voice tight with concern, we're detecting over 50,000 defensive structures throughout the system. The humans have turned their entire solar system into a weapon. Cork studied the displays with growing alarm. Mars had been converted into a massive military base. The asteroid belt had been mined and weaponized. Even the outer planets hosted hidden fleets of human warships. In 2 short years, humanity had transformed their home system into the most heavily defended region in the galaxy. How is this possible? Corks muttered. No species can build so fast. What the Empire had failed to understand was humanity's greatest advantage: their ability to work together when faced with extinction. Every nation, every corporation, every individual on Earth had contributed to the massive construction effort. Factories had been built in space. Automated mining ships stripped entire asteroids for raw materials, and the combined knowledge of Earth's greatest minds had created weapons that surpassed even Imperial technology. Admiral Thompson, now promoted to Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces, watched the approaching alien fleet from his command center buried deep beneath the Earth's surface. The numbers were staggering. Humanity was outnumbered nearly 100 to 1. But they had advantages the Empire couldn't imagine. All stations, this is command, Thompson broadcast to every human vessel and platform in the system. Today, we don't just fight for Earth. We fight for every species the Empire has enslaved, for every world they've destroyed. Today we show the galaxy that freedom cannot be conquered. The first wave of Imperial ships entered the outer system, expecting to sweep aside any resistance. Instead, they found themselves caught in a carefully planned trap. Hidden weapons platforms opened fire from the asteroid belt, while cloaked human ships attacked from unexpected angles. Captain Miller, now leading an entire squadron of advanced fighters, dove through the chaos of battle with practiced ease. The new human ships were smaller and faster than Imperial vessels, but they packed weapons that could punch through the enemy's strongest armor. Gold leader to all units, Miller commanded. Remember your training. Hit and run. Use the asteroids. For cover. Make every shot count. The battle raged across the entire solar system as humanity's defenders fought with desperate courage. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the Empire had lost long ago: the will to fight for something greater than themselves. Corks watched in disbelief as his Grand Fleet, the pride of the Empire, was slowly being torn apart by the fierce human resistance. Ships that had conquered entire star systems were being destroyed by fighters no larger than shuttlecraft. This is impossible, he breathed, echoing the words that had haunted Imperial commanders for the past 2 years. They're just one small world. But humanity had never been just one world. They were a species that had learned to fight through centuries of warfare, to unite when faced with common threats, and to never surrender when defending their home. Every human pilot, every gunner, every soldier carried the hopes and dreams of their entire species. As the battle reached its climax, something unprecedented happened. The Imperial fleet, for the first time in galactic history, broke and ran. The survivors fled toward the edge of the system, their morale shattered by humanity's fierce resistance. Admiral Thompson watched the enemy retreat and smiled grimly. The message was clear. Earth would not be conquered. But more than that, humanity was no longer content to simply defend their world. They had tasted victory against the galaxy's greatest empire, and they wanted more. The age of human expansion was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The end.